very direct now. You know, everybody has a concept of I am learning deen or I am learning dunya. So when they're learning science, or if they're learning biology, if they're learning, you know, medicine, or if they're learning, you know, accounting or finance or something like that, they're learning dunya. And if they're studying hadith and fiqh and sharia and Arabic and tajweed and all of these things, then they're studying what? They're learning deen, right? And we do this all the time. Like my work is dunya and my time in the masjid is deen, right? So we separate deen and dunya all the time. We use this terminology, right? And so what happens then when you keep doing this and you keep using that kind of language is you develop the idea that certain things you do in a day, 24 hours, certain things you do are beneficial for your akhirah, and certain things you do are only beneficial for your dunya. But actually the concept of Islam is very powerful, it's very beautiful. The concept of Islam is that we are abd, we are slaves of Allah. And a slave is not a slave for certain hours. By definition, a slave is not the same as a worshipper. A worshipper is someone who does worship. So we were worshippers when we were upstairs making salah. You understand? But when salah was over, we were still slaves. Now the word for worshipper is abid. Abid. But the word for slave is abd. So we are abid, meaning worshippers, at certain times. You know, when I go to Hajj, I'm abid. When I go to Salah, I'm abid. When I'm reciting Quran, I'm abid. But when I'm driving my car, I'm still what? I'm still abd. When I'm getting married, I'm still abd. When I have children, I'm still abd. When I'm going to work, I'm still abd. When I'm taking a vacation, I'm still abd. I may not be a abid at the time, but I'm still a abd. But now the thing is, we've turned this conversation into deen and dunya. In other words, unless you're a abid, you're really not doing anything for your afterlife. You're not doing anything that makes Allah happy. If you really want to do something for your deen, then you have to be on the abid side of things. You have to be a worshipper, you have to be learning, teaching, in a masjid, in a halaqah, in a setting. You have to be doing these things. Other things are all for your dunya. Now the thing is, let's just change the framework of our education first. This happened to me while I was in Australia. A young man, all of it, all knowledge and science that human beings discover is actually inspired to the human beings. Kama allamahu Allah, as Allah had taught him. I made it a point to share this concept with you because you don't have to feel bad about this area of science or, you know, the area of social sciences, the area of history, whatever you're studying. You don't have to feel bad that it's not deen. It's knowledge granted to the human being. If you're studying architecture, does that benefit society? Absolutely. If you're studying public administration, does that benefit society? Absolutely. Does it benefit people? Yeah, sure. If you're studying business, can it benefit people? Absolutely. These fields are essential, they're beneficial. As a matter of fact, I look back at my own career and I realize I made a transition out of the technology industry into what I do now, this crazy thing we call Bayina. Right? I made this jump. And before I was doing this, for almost a decade, I was in the technology industry. I got a job full-time working in the tech industry while I was in college. So I used to work full-time and go to college part-time, right? And by the time I graduated, I was already offered like a department director position at a company. Alhamdulillah. And I used to be a design director. So I was big on like front-end design and, you know, UI and graphic design, that sort of thing. That was my area, right? And so when I left all of it, and you know, in early 2000s, it was a dot-com bust and all these companies were laying off people. Well, I was, laid off, you know? And then I decided to do something with Arabic and maybe put some, just, you know, take whatever notes I had and put them online somewhere and this and that. But I didn't have the money to hire a graphic designer or, you know, somebody who can write the code for me and do the JavaScript for me and back in the day, HTML for me, all this stuff. I didn't know that. You know who did that? I did. I did it myself. But I couldn't have done it if I didn't have previous background. If I didn't have my career background, I would not be able to put together a .com and put together the study materials and put together the advertising materials and put together the resources that I needed to actually teach a class at a masjid. Because I didn't have any outside help, it was just myself. Right? So what I learned before, had I not known it, we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't be sitting here. So I don't look back at that career and that job and that position and those opportunities as, oh, that was dunya and this is deen. Not at all. As a matter of fact, I look at that as the essential tarbiyah that Allah allowed me to learn, that allowed me to do what I'm doing now. It's not a waste. And that's the view we have to have of our education and our experiences. No experience is a waste. No learning is a waste. No job is a waste. It's a waste when you don't make advantage of it. When you don't take advantage. Everything Allah will give you is an opportunity. And you have to use that opportunity for something better, something good. So long as you're doing that, you're good. Don't get caught up in this deen versus dunya thing. And there's one final note on this, which you might not like to hear, but I have to say. Is people say, I want to do this for the sake of Allah. I want to do everything for the sake of Allah. And I say, that's impossible. Huh? Akhi, if you want to have sincerity, if you want to be sincere, what does sincerity mean? You do things for the sake of Allah. No. Sorry. You can't say that. That means you don't have sincerity, because everything you do should be for the sake of Allah. Let me ask you this. Famous hadith. The Prophet ﷺ describes a man who had committed many sins. Many sins. And he sees a dog that's dying of thirst. And he's about to drink himself. And he gives the dog the drink. And then he died. The man died. Where did he go? He went to Jannah because he showed mercy to the dog, yeah? Now, I think about that hadith and I ask myself, did he give the dog the drink for the sake of Allah? Did he, before he fed the dog, say, Ya Allah, this is not for the dog? Because I personally don't even like dogs. This is for your sake. Sincerely for you. Now I'm going to give the dog. Is that what happened? Why did he give the dog drink? He felt bad for the dog. He felt mercy. He sincerely felt mercy for the dog. He had sincerity. What we've done is we've taken the word sincerity and made it what? Sincerity for the sake of Allah. Sincerity approved by Allah is not the same as sincerity for the sake of Allah. There's all kinds of sincerity. I have sincerity to my wife. That's not for the sake of Allah. That's for her. I have sincerity to my mom. I love her. But I don't love her for the sake of Allah. If you tell your mom, I love you for the sake of Allah, you know what that means? Had it not been for Allah, I would not have. I mean, seriously, it's so hard otherwise. No. The Prophet ﷺ says when you smile in the face of your brother, it's sadaqah. Right? Al-basma fi wajhi akhika sadaqah. When I see a good friend, I smile. But I don't smile for the sake of, I'm happy to see him. I don't see him. Okay, akhirah. If I did that, by the way, if I smiled only for the sake of Allah, not because I'm happy to see him, that would not be sincere. That's actually an insincere smile, isn't it? There are some things you and I do purely for the sake of Allah. Ikhlas to Allah. Salah is only for Allah. Hajj is only for Allah. Teaching the deen is only for Allah. Like memorizing Quran is only for Allah. Ibadah is only for Allah. Dua is only for Allah. You understand? But then there are some things you do for people. There are some things you do for yourself. I don't exercise for the sake of Allah. I like it. I don't play basketball for the sake of Allah. No, akhi, change your intention. If you do it for the sake of Allah, then basketball will count as ibadah. How do I change my intention? I just like basketball. What do you mean change my intention? I'm taking the shot for the sake of Allah? No. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. So what we've done is we've taken these famous words for the sake of Allah and we artificially impose them on everything in life, and then our life becomes super difficult because when you're driving to work and getting paid, you're like, I'm getting paid for the sake of the paycheck. I'm not getting paid for the sake of Allah. I'm insincere. No, you're not. Relax. Al-Kasibu Habibullah. The one who works hard is the beloved of Allah. Why? Because they are sincere to their job. They're sincere to their employer. They're sincere at their work. They don't lie, they don't cheat, they don't steal. Sincerity for the sake of Allah does not mean sincerity only to Allah. Sincerity to people, sincerity to your job, sincerity to your agreements, sincerity to yourself. All of that's acceptable to Allah. All of that is beloved to Allah. Why would the Prophet ﷺ even say something so powerful like a husband and a wife loving each other physically is an act of ibadah? That no man is thinking about the sake of Allah when he's with his wife. He's not. Let's be honest. And he doesn't, before, hold on a second, let me just make my intention. Nope. It's just, our deen is natural. It's natural. We make it artificial. We make it difficult to understand and process. What I'm going back to is some people feel when they have a particular career, that career is not for the sake of Allah. Your career should have sincere intentions. You want to do something good with it. You want to benefit someone with it. And that's okay. That's okay. There are certain things in which the intention should only be for Allah. Ibadah is the big one. Ibadah should only be for Allah. When you give charity, it should only be for Allah. But by the way, if you give charity because you feel bad for someone, is that acceptable? Yes. There are sometimes acceptable intentions. Acceptable intentions. And that's fine. Like that man who gave charity to the dog. Wasn't that an acceptable intention? Yeah. Yeah. That was completely an acceptable intention. So we have to broaden our perspective on how to think about our religion and not impose on our deen things that Allah and His Messenger ﷺ did not impose. They didn't force those things on us. We did. We took some of these definitions. We gave them an ultra strange meaning and then made our own lives difficult. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us sincere to Him and to people in all things that we do. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks for watching, guys.